And I think we are live, so we're good. I want to welcome everybody back to yet another episode of the Bench Doctor. Last week we had a wonderful conversation about dementia and firearms ownership, but this week we're back with Scott hitting guns with hammers. Um, we are live tonight on Facebook, on Twitch, on Twitter, and on our members only Facebook launch, I think, although it seems like it might be having struggles doing sending of the data. So that failed last week. I might have to stop and restart it. So if you're on the members lounge in Facebook, we'll be back with you soon. Uh, we've got a couple of moderators tonight looking at the various channels. If you've got questions and you're here in the Zoom, you can drop them right in the chat. One of us will pick them up, put them on the list, and ask them at a convenient time. If you've got questions on one of the places where we are currently live and you're not here, well, next time sign up and come here live because it's better if you ask the questions during Zoom. Otherwise, drop the questions on the social media platform of your choice, and we shall try to get to them and make sure that they're added appropriately. With that, I want to turn it over to Scott to tell us what the hell we're doing tonight.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I've been looking forward to this for a while just because these are sort of uncommon uh, weapons. They're what's called roller delayed blowback. So unlike an FAL or a AR-10 or AR-15, they don't have a gas system that cycles the bolt, and they're just a straight blowback. But they have a mechanism called that are rollers that lock inside the chamber, and that delays the bolt sliding back just long enough for the projectile and the gas to escape out the barrel. They originated, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert, but the Sturmgewehr 45, or I think it was. Yeah, I think it was the Sturmgewehr 45 was the first one I know of in Germany. At the end of the World War II, they were messing around with producing roller delayed blowback designs, and it sort of stopped after Germany lost, and they were forbidden to do any more weapons development. So two of the engineers from Mauser at the time left the country because they weren't allowed to produce arms for Germany, and they went to Spain and kept continuing with the idea. And they came up with this gun right here, which is a CETME, and it originally shot a similar cartridge to the 308, but not quite as powerful, and ended up settling on the NATO 308 round. So people often think that this is a clone of the G3, which is not true. The G3 is a clone of this gun. This came first. And a lot of the parts are interchangeable between these. The mechanisms are almost identical. The receiver, the magazines are interchangeable for the most part. I run usually three G3 mags because they're super cheap to get. And but this is a real. This is a CETME. The lower receiver was made by Century Arms, which should send up red flags with a lot of people. But this gun is runs really well, and it's very accurate for a Century gun. The newer ones you see now, this is quite a bit older, have a Picatinny rail that's been welded onto the top of the receiver. This one does not, which I prefer it to not have the rail because that's not the way they were made. They were made this way. And the nicest thing about these series of weapons is the what's called the HK slap, which if you've seen Die Hard or where they use the MP5, you smack that lever, the bolt rides home. That's called the HK slap, and that's just there's nothing like it. It's really fun. But I'm going to go ahead and set the CETME aside because it's big. It's a big, heavy gun. The receiver stamped steel. The trigger pack is all steel. The barrel is, this thing is a big chunk of steel. I like the CETME because it has the wood furniture on it, and it's kind of a neat look. But I'm going to set it aside. And this is one I got just last night, just in time. this is a real H&K 308. You see the 91, the HK 91 was imported into the country in the 80s. And the Bush executive order banning assault weapons went into effect in 1989. And in order to keep importing this rifle, H&K had to make a few changes to it. And it came with a thumbhole stock. There's no muzzle device, no threaded barrel. And so that way they were able to skirt the assault weapons label. And this is called an SR9, SR being sport rifle. Takes G3 parts or 91 parts. Everything about it is a 91. A lot of people have taken these, and this has these earliest ones came with two stocks, this stock and the thumbhole stock. I have the thumbhole stock in a box that came with the gun, but I don't have it on here. I really much prefer this stock, this black composite. Some of them came with, some of the very earliest ones came with a wood grained applique over this, over the thumbhole stock, over the polymer thumbhole stock. Kind of neat looking, but kind of weird too. But so this is the SR9. They went from this to an SR9T, which was a target rifle. And then this series of guns kind of morphed more into a precision rifle and less of a battle rifle. This one's kind of in its original semi battle rifle configuration. But anyway, it's kind of neat. It's stamped made in West Germany. So that, you know, it's a very early 90s gun before the Berlin Wall fell. And then the serial number on it is a 3-digit serial number. It's a really early gun. It has the German roll mark right here in the receiver, and the caliber is 7.62 by 5.1. This thing is pristine. I honestly don't think it's ever been shot. It is absolutely perfect inside and out. My brother brought it up to me. He got it from the same guy that had this one. I'd tell you the whole story, but it's probably not okay for YouTube. These were rescued from California before, right when the assault weapons ban was going into place. They left the state. My brother acquired them, and then I got them from him. So this is an HK 43, probably the rarest gun I own. You've heard of the HK 33, which was the full automatic version of this from the 60s. It shoots the 223. And so the HK 33 was the full automatic, and they wanted to develop a civilian version of this gun. So this is that effort. It's the HK 43, which is a 33 but semi-auto only. Right here on our safety or our selector switch. Whoa, watch the light there. Our selector switch is just safe and fire. There's only two spots on there. They also removed a pin right here that allowed the full auto trigger pack to go into it, because you'll see as this gun comes apart how easy it is to swap out a trigger pack. So they had to make a few changes to it so that it couldn't be super easily converted to full auto. These guns were imported, about 200 of them, into the United States, and the ATF soon realized that the barrels were shorter than 16 inches. So HK recalled them all, and they were brought back in. This muzzle device was pinned and welded to make it 16 inches. And then they didn't sell well, so HK discontinued them. So to my knowledge, there are only 200 of them in the country, and I think less than 400 produced worldwide. So they're for HK collectors, this is sort of the holy grail. There's just very, very few of them. So, but then they kind of started building them again in the 80s, I believe, and that was the HK 93. So it's like the little brother of the HK 91, and they were sold up until the quote unquote assault weapons ban. and then they are no more. Even the 93s are fairly unusual to find. You can buy modern reproductions of these. A company called Ptr makes the receivers now, and you can get the old parts kits and reassemble them. You can also buy 80% flats of these receivers, but the jig is like $300 to bend one of these, so it
So
doesn't really make sense.
Scott, that leads to our first question. Daniel was asking if there was any American firearms that utilize this type of system.
No, no, they were all, at least to my knowledge. I'm not an expert on the roller delayed blowback, but I don't think any American firearms manufacturers use that system. It's only been European companies that I'm aware of. CETME, HK. Well, they, the MP5 is one of the roller delayed blowback designs, um, but I'm not aware of a single American manufacturer that used it. It looks like I need to replace that knob there, but so this gun was only around for a couple of years, and this one is stamped right here, 3 of 74. So this gun was made 1974. It says HK43, the serial number. On this side, we have made in Germany exclusively for Seiko, which was the importer that brought them into the country, and then Arlington, Virginia, caliber 223. So I don't shoot 5.56 ammo through it. It probably is robust enough, but 5.56 and 223, contrary to what people say, they are different. There's higher pressures with 5.56 ammo, and so why run over pressure ammo through such an unusual gun? It just doesn't make any sense. I'm not shooting it for targets or for matches or anything like that, and it just doesn't make any sense to punish this thing any more than I would need to. So I just run straight up 223 ammo through it. But it is remarkably accurate for a battle rifle. I don't have any specifics, but I know I can shoot, one MOA with it at 100 yards, probably 3 MOA at a couple hundred. I've never really taken it out and tried to dial it in a whole lot. I just have it shoot it a couple of times a year, and I just enjoy owning it. The sights on it are interesting. As you see, that none of these guns are loaded. There's no magazine and nothing in the chambers. But the sighting system is this little spinner up here. So the 100-yard sight is just a notch that you align with this point down at the end of the barrel, kind of like an AK style. It's hooded. And this thing is really difficult to use. So most people I know that use this system, even on the clones, use the 200 because it's a Peep Sight. So there's a 200, 300, and 400 yard Peep Sight that you just rotate this thing to whatever distance you're shooting at. And but most people I know don't use the notch for the 100 yards. The CETME is slightly different. I'll bring that back up on the bench here in a bit, but the sighting system is a little bit different on that one. And then, people ask, how do you mount scopes to these things or optics? And the way it's done are with these claw mounts. And these things, any of these old original HK parts are worth a fortune. So this goes on top of the gun, on top of here, and it's made to clamp. And then you tighten this down and it clamps. I don't run it on this gun because I don't want to chew up the finish or dent anything, and I don't really see the reason to. I run this on my CETME because it's not as valuable or as unusual of a gun, and I don't mind, a little bit of more scratching and things like that. I found this at a gun show here locally in Oregon. It was sitting on a table of a bunch of random parts, and I asked the old guy, what do you want for that? And he looked at me and he said, do you know what it is? And I said, yeah, it's a scope mount for a G3 rifle. And he said, I've had that thing since the 80s. I had no idea what it was. And he wanted 20 for it. And just because I am who I am, I bargained him down to 15 on a $250 scope mount. But I wasn't going to leave the building without it. It was just too rare to find one of these things, in a real authentic one. So I was really happy to get that, and it works pretty well. So it's kind of neat. That's how you mount them, though. Problem is that it puts your scope so high over the bore. You can see that with the handguard, the top of the gun is already quite a bit higher than the bore, and then you put a scope on a raised mount like that, and you need a whole lot of MOA adjustment to get that thing dialed in. But it looks pretty neat. It's kind of a cool device. So I thought I'd show you how these break down. The 91 and the CETME and the 93s all come apart the same way. It's a pretty neat design, and then we'll get into the guts of the roller delayed system, which is really the kind of the heart and soul of these guns. So to take it apart, you start with this. You have a pin right here that runs through, and it pins this stock and the rest of this all together to the receiver. So you just kind of, you push that through. This is a little tight. Yeah. And then kind of slide the stock off. And in here, you know how an AR is buffered. Can't get much light on it, but there's a little buffer in the stock as well. But this just comes straight off. And then what's neat is these holes here in the thing for the sling is made to hold those pins so you don't lose them. This gun only takes one pin. The 308 guns take two. And so it has these two holes that you just pop the pins in, and that way you can lose it all as one assembly. So once you have that off, you just rotate and pull the trigger pack out. That's the entire trigger pack. And if you want to take this down further, you can rotate your safety pin, your safety lever up to the 12 o'clock position, rotate it out, and then your trigger assembly comes right out in one piece. It's supposed to anyway. There we go. Just throw that over there. So that's your trigger assembly. And this is nice because I can now, when it's down inside this receiver, or, you know, this part, it's really hard to get in there and lubricate with grease and oil where you really want to get it, as well as really give it a good deep cleaning. It's probably not a step that you would take on an everyday field cleaning of one of these, field stripping of one of these, but it's nice to be able to do it. Go ahead and set that aside. Put these parts kind of out of my way. So now we're left with our receiver and our bolt. To get the bolt out, you just move your charging handle back. And here's your recoil spring and your bolt and bolt head. So this right here, and I don't, hopefully this is showing up. I'm going to be improving my lighting and my camera going forward. So hopefully this will get better. But right here, you see these rollers.
Yeah.
And what's that?
We can see them. They're good.
Oh, okay. So, and these guns, one word of caution to you with these is they run filthy. If you think an AR is dirty, you need to own one of these. These things are just get disgusting. And they do need quite a bit of cleaning. You know, they're not super finicky. They don't need to be, you know, super clean to run, but when you do clean them, it's going to take some time. But what happens is this bolt moves forward and it locks in place, and these rollers pop out into, I don't know if we're going to be able to see this, but inside the chamber right here are two little indents in the chamber. These pop out. The gun fires, your firing pin's back here, coming right through the bolt face right here. This fires. These are locked into place just briefly, and then the momentum pushes them back in, and the bolt and the bolt carrier slide back and move forward, stripping another round off. But that's what is delaying it just long enough for that projectile to and gases to exit the gun before it it works open. And reading about these things, it took a lot of math and engineering to figure out all of the variables to get that to happen with just the precise amount of time locked to let all that happen. So it's kind of a neat, and I would pull this bolt out. This bolt comes out, and this is the actual bolt right here. This is the carrier. I'm not going to take this out because you need a pair of channel locks to put it all back together. And I cringe every time I do it because I'm grabbing this wonderful piece of German engineering. And I realize how hard this is, and it's unlikely that I would damage it with a pair of channel locks, but I just don't like doing it. But this slides out, your firing pin comes out, and you can get in there and clean everything. And it's been cleaned fairly recently. But as the gun wears, these rollers become undersized. And so you can replace these. And if you go out on a HK parts site, you'll see multiple different sizes of these rollers. So it is kind of a wear item, and kind of a neat, and they're not too hard to get out of there. But anyway, and this is your recoil spring right here. This on the CETME and the 91 comes out with the stock, but so that's your bolt and your carrier. And then we can also, if we wanted to, take the front handguard off. There's another pin right here, just like the other one. One of these kind of cotter pin type things. And then that comes off. And there's multiple types of furniture that you can run on these. This is a low profile, a very skinny handguard that I like. I'm going to order a fatter one that allows me to put the HK factory bipod on it, which is kind of neat. It folds up and then it locks into place under the handguard. The handguard's got a notch in it right here, and it locks in and folds back. And I really want to run it on this gun. I'm probably going to get rid of either the CETME or the SR9. I'm not sure which, but anyway. So that's the inner workings of a roller delayed blowback gun. And this is just a much smaller version of the CETME, or the SR9. It's exactly the same, just scaled up. If you didn't know what you were looking at, or you didn't see them side by side, it's really hard to tell them apart. So anyway, well, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. Put it back together. You just drop your bolt back in.
So Scott, while you're at that, how often do you replace the rollers?
I've never replaced them on either one of them.
What do you think would be a reasonable amount of rounds?
I think as soon as they're out of spec, and there are texts out there that will teach you, or explain to you what, when and how to replace them. But I've just never done it. I've never felt the need. I don't put enough rounds through them really to wear them out. I mean, I think it's a wear item for a battle rifle. So that would indicate to me it's probably tens of thousands of rounds to wear one out. But I honestly don't know. I'm gonna put my handguard back. But I love kind of the simplicity of these things. I mean, they're really, typical German engineering, really neat engineering on them. So that goes back in there. We'll take our trigger pack, put it back in. So rotate it back into place. There we go. So I'm just trying to line up.
We got a couple of questions flooding in the channel if you're ready.
Yeah.
How often do you clean the trigger assembly?
Well, normally what I do, I clean this thing pretty much every time I use it, just because it's sort of a pretty valuable and rare gun, and I don't want it to get, and I'm more to inspect it so much than clean it. I want to make sure I stay ahead of any lubrication or rust issues on it. So what I do with this is I take it and I spray it with some non-chlorinated brake cleaner to get all of the carbon and crud out of it. And then I just put a few drops of oil here and there. but maybe every third or fourth time I'll take the trigger pack out and really give it a good cleaning with some nylon brushes, and then get in there with some grease and oil. And so maybe every, like I said, second or third time. But I like to get in there and inspect this stuff and make sure, because it's steel, and the finish gets worn a little bit, and I don't want it to start developing rust.
And then a follow up to that is what you showed was a safety common to all the all the HK roller guns.
As far as I know, I can't speak to the MP5. I've shot one, but I've never taken one apart. So I don't know if the MP5 is exactly the same way, but all of the ones I know of that take this trigger pack. So, that's why they put this, they eliminated this pin here, was because what you could do is take this trigger assembly out and replace it with a full auto one and just put the gun back together. It was that easy. So the ATF made them build this sort of bridge here and and block it off. And that's why these don't have the paddle release. Some of the, the old, you look at the G3s and the full auto guns have a paddle release down here. You can just push forward with your thumb and get the mag out. These, with this push button style, like an AR, these are out of reach of your trigger finger, which is one shortcoming of the gun. You have to break your grip to swap the magazines on them. So this just goes back in place.
And then parts. How hard is it to find the parts?
Not hard at all, honestly. There's a lot of, they're not cheap. If you want real HK parts, you're going to pay. But they're readily available. I have had magazines for the 91, 308 magazines are dirt cheap. I mean, like $1.99 a piece cheap for the aluminum ones. The CETME, the real Spanish CETME ones, run about $5 or $6 for 20 round. Those are 20 rounders. The magazines for this gun are incredibly expensive. They're, because they're all steel bodied, and they're just so few of them. I have 6, and they're $100 a piece. But the 6 I have came with the gun, some 20s and some 40s, or 25s and 40s. I can't remember. And then I have an HK mag coupler that couples 2 together. And those things, the accessories are just crazy, like these claw mounts. 300, $400, $200-300 if you can find one. The HK original bipods aren't really expensive. They're like $80. It's all relative, but I mean, a really good AR bipod is at least $80. But the real HK stamped pieces are very expensive, with the exception of the magazines. So we take our handguard, our stock, and we just slide it back on. Kind of line up, just make sure this is lined up. I kind of have to push it this way a little bit to line it up. Drop our pin in like that. And that's it. That's the old HK slap.
And I've shot a number of MP5s, and I can't tell you how sort of surreal it is to look at a huge one on the screen right now. So
Yeah. Oh, this is the baby. Let me get the huge one. That's the little brother. That I would say is comparable to the weight of an AR-15, maybe a heavier AR-15 with, say, a bull barrel. So it's not, unmanageably heavy. Now this monster is a big gun. Let me get the 43 next to it, and it looks like its little brother.
it just looking at the gun, it's like that looks like an MP5. So
yeah, it's the exact same setup. It's
bigger,
just bigger. But with the 91, I call this 91. It's an SR9, just to be correct. But you'll notice that it has the 2 takedown pins that fit in the stock, but it's really the same gun. It comes apart exactly the same way. Let me take it apart and show you a little bit, but it's, if you're taking one apart, you can take any of them and kind of wiggle that out. Yeah. get the stock off, or that sling off. So the stock rolls out of our way, like so. See, this one came with the Recoil Spring came out with the stock, but there it is. And then you slide your bolt out. Come on out. Come on out, bolt. I gotta reach in here because it. Come on out, Mr. Bolt. Oh, let me get the trigger pack out. There we go. And here's our bolt. And look at this thing. I mean, it is absolutely pristine. So there's no carbon in it. I don't think this thing has ever been fired.
Well, you got to fix that. Get these to the range.
Oh, it's getting fixed Thursday. I don't own guns that I don't fire, but so look at that. I mean, this is just the same exact piece as the 43. It's just bigger, scaled up. But so pretty neat, pretty neat. I feel very fortunate to own them because they are not cheap. I don't know what this thing is worth. I know what I paid for it, and I didn't pay anywhere near what it would cost to replace it. But,
Isn't that always the best?
yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I think we're running out of questions. So, folks, if you got questions, drop them into any of the places that they need dropped into.
But if you get if you get the opportunity to play with one of these or shoot one, certainly do it. They're really fun, and they if you've ever shot an FAL versus an AR-10, they all have a different recoil impulse and a different feel to them, and they're really neat. The CETME tends to kind of smack people in the cheekbone because of the way the hump on the stock is. And I have had a few friends that have kind of given themselves minor black eyes with it. I tell them, watch your cheek weld because it will jump up and smack you, and they don't listen and end up getting smacked. Go ahead and put this back on.
So when Karen and I make our post-COVID road trip up to see Scott, we're gonna shoot that, right?
Yep. Yeah, we'll take it out and the cool thing is, I forgot to mention too that the inside of the chamber is fluted, so it's got these linear grooves cut in it, and to make the brass, help the brass slide out better. So it puts these vertical lines in the brass, and then it extracts them with authority. So it sends the brass 3 counties over. Richard Lidzbarski, our chapter president, we had a retro rifle shoot one time at our local range, and he was like 4 bays down from me or 4 benches down from me, and I was just launching hot brass onto him. It was pretty funny. I got the best Richard look from him from doing that. But this thing, if you're lucky to find half the brass you brought with you, it's like the Drew Brees of actions. So, this is, I'll show you that. This is the bipod mount I was talking about. The bipod slides right in this groove, and it's locked into place by this spring right here. And then it just folds back, and you can see this handguard is made for the bipod. That's what this groove is it lays right in here. So I got to order the same handguard for the 43 so that I could run it. But anyway, this is the 91 SR9.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we could wrap it up. There's no reason to go the whole hour if nobody's got other questions.
There's some chatter on Facebook, but it's not really any questions.
Is it mean-spirited and hateful?
No.
No, they're ever mean, but no, but everybody loves you, Scott.
Yeah, right.
So we go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, that was awesome. I'm stunned at how similar functionally they are to the MP5. So
it's a pretty reliable, sturdy system, and it seems like overkill for an MP5, which is straight up 9mm. Makes sense.
I'd actually always thought that, well, what the one you got on the screen, is that the CETME?
That's the CETME, yeah.
I always thought that they were just elaborate AKs, but apparently I'm just outright wrong. So.
Completely different guns because the AK uses that piston gas system, and this doesn't
I
use it.
know. I
Doesn't
know.
have a gas system whatsoever. Here's the Peep Sight on the CETME. It's a little bit different. You can see this is the 200 yard, 300, 400,
Oh, wow.
and then that's your notch. So it's a little bit different instead of the dial type on the H&K. But that's really the only real noticeable difference on these guns. There's a bayonet lug, which the HK does not have because it's a sporting rifle. But this is the bayonet lug here. And then there's a cleaning kit that goes down inside right here.
Well, the
Which fits
bayonet
down.
goes over the barrel.
Yeah, it goes over the barrel and latches on right here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up.
Okay. Well,
And going once, going twice for questions. Danielle, what do we got next week?
We're doing a Christmas unboxing. Isn't
yeah.
everybody
Hold on just one
excited?
second.
Don't pull the box out.
Don't pull the
I
box.
ordered, I won an auction. What's that?
It's not an unboxing if you show us.
No, this isn't the one
That's
that-
not
no.
what he's unboxing.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's a dubious unboxing for a dubious gun. It's a
No.
well,
Don't
I'm gonna
say what
Don't
you're
ruin
unboxing
that.
next week.
Don't harsh it.
okay. Well, it'll be a
Because
surprise.
it's an unboxing, so
That-
it's a
well, but
surprise.
That looks like
It'll be a
surprise.
surprise. You'll be surprised. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about these Smith & Wesson. This is the 10.5, but sort of the Smith & Wesson Model 10s, and take the cover plate off and look down in the lock work. And then I have a Colt. They're going to take the side plate off and show you the differences, how different the same problem was solved by two different companies at the same time. I have a police positive that I can show side by side with this, and show you the lock work in one of these.
Well, I have two Smith & Wesson Model 10-ish variants, so I will be following along with interest to see you take that apart, because I've taken mine apart and I had a hell of a time getting back together.
Yeah, these are a
before I
lot
knew
more
anything,
difficult.
so.
They're not fun. They're a lot more difficult than the Colts, because there's little springs and crap in here that the Colt doesn't quite do it the same way. But
Okay,
anyway,
we got a couple more late questions on the big guns.
okay.
What's your most important maintenance tip for owners of roller guns?
I would say maintaining the headspace and cleaning them. Check the headspace and then replace the rollers as necessary. But like I've said, I've never had to do it on mine. Checking the headspace, well, you can go online and see the instructions on how to do that. If you buy a Century gun, make sure you bring see if you have a headspace gauge that you can borrow, or bring a feeler gauge and measure the headspace on those, because they were sort of cutting corners building them, and some of them they just ground the back of the bolt down to make the headspace correct, which is the wrong way to do it. You would replace the rollers. It's what it was built to do, but I don't know if they didn't know it or didn't care, but they would throw the bolt on a grinder and butcher the thing. And so that's where they got the terrible reputation on the CETMEs, was doing that to them. But just keep it clean and keep it lubricated.
Okay, and then Michael says he'd like to own one of these someday. What should a potential buyer look for when looking at these? For
a real HK or just a roller delayed kind of clone, because they're I would look for a real H&K.
I think he's talking about H&K because he mentioned H&K above.
Get out your checkbook, because they are not cheap. I think the cheapest one.
He says real deal German made HK.
Well, see me offline. Their condition is a big deal with these, and then you want to look and see that all of the parts are stamped with the correct age. Their stampings on these things. You just want to make sure it has authentic H&K parts, because the receiver needs to be H&K. And I would just check the stock and any accessories that came with it to make sure that they're all authentic and you're getting what you paid for. The Ptr guns are pretty good guns, and most of them are pretty much all HK with the exception of the receiver and the barrels, because what they're doing is they're bringing in parts kits and it comes with everything but the barrel and the receiver, and that way they can get around the import laws, and a certain percentage of the gun is actually American. And but I've never heard anything bad about the PTR barrels, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, and so if anybody is truly has their eye on one, you can bug Scott via the Liberal Gun Club Members Lounge, and if you're not on Facebook, you can email me at lgcevents@theliberalgunclub.com, and I'll get you in touch with Scott.
Yeah, I know of.
Because if you're gonna spend that much money, we want to make sure you do a good job.
Yeah, I know of a 93 and a SR9 that can be had.
Wouldn't be close to home, would it, Scott?
No. Just friends,
All right.
friends of friends.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we're wrapped, right?
Right. Yep. Next week will be revolvers and fun.
Revolvers in an unboxing.
Mystery gun.
The mystery gun that you're dying to tell us about. You almost spoiled the
No,
surprise.
I'll be actually ashamed, I
You
think.
No, shut up. No. It's the thought that counts. There are no bad gifts.
Well, you'll know how bad I was this year when this gift is opened.
Outstanding. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kill the live, and we'll talk to everybody next